It's January 7th, 2017, Edible Acres here at the main nursery. I thought I would do a little walking tour of an area that I call my resource depot zone. It's right in the middle of winter right now. We're back into the cold. Last night was in the single digits. This morning it's 10 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to get up to like 19. And I thought it was a great opportunity to start building soil mix that will be used a little bit this season and then mainly for the 2018 growing season. I just want to break down what's going on in this area. Let me zoom out a little bit. So we're on the east side of the lawn. The house is just over here. As you can see, there's gardens everywhere around here. Beautiful view of the lake off in the distance. And the reason this resource depot is where it is a couple reasons. One, I can get my truck easily over here. It's flat and mowed lawn into this space. So now that it's freezing cold and the ground is rock solid frozen, my two-wheel drive truck can give me access. The other reason is that there are these three beautiful pines right in this area. And this is due south. And so what happens is I can use this area to accumulate wood chips and store biochar and perlite and mineral dusts and compost, and the trees help to buffer it from extreme cold and extreme heat, and it's a place where I can pot up plants in the comfort of the shade of this context. So a couple of reasons why I would have this here. The other reason is this is just the tiniest bit upslope of our main production garden. So any heavy rains that happen, any leaching that wants to happen through this compost will go through a trench that I dug and bleed out into the walkways of this whole garden. So there's fertigation from the bottom up as a design for excess nutrient, which is just going to happen no matter what. The other things I've done in here that might be interesting to see, you can see this shrub is an autumn olive, which I planted. It's actually a cultivar autumn olive from Oiko's Tree Crops. Believe it or not, we're in early January. There's still lycopene-rich frozen berries on there, which is awesome. But also why I would plant this here is it is a nitrogen fixer. And so I'm bringing in all these nutrients, all these wood chips that I want to break down. And so by having a shrub that provides shade, but also bleeds nitrogen into the soil more or less constantly, I would think, at least in the summer, the wood chips get a little bit of excess nitrogen. You can see in here are a bunch of buckets. Maybe I'll do another video on this at another time. Good friend of mine, Akiva Silver with Twisted Tree Nursery, you can check him out, taught me this trick. This is 5-gallon buckets with holes drilled, little holes drilled in the lids and equal amounts in the bottom. They're filled with rotted wood chips, and each have a different species of tree seed. There's chestnuts and Carpathian walnuts, pawpaws, all sorts of things, peaches, plums, apricots that are stored in here. I'll be able to pull these buckets out in the spring, take out those cold stratified seeds and be able to plant them into nursery beds. You can see, kind of, it's really unimpressive to look at this, but believe it or not, there's like 100 hours of labor to make this little lump of soil here. This will be 2017's potting mix for my Edible Acres nursery. And you can see there's all these trees in here. I planted a whole bunch of chestnuts and oaks and apricots in here to grow for one more season in the spring of 2016. I'll dig them out early spring of this upcoming year for 2017 and be able to use all this material as my potting mix. So it's a way to get an additional yield from this as it's resting and mellowing. You can also see it was cover cropped in the fall. There's a bunch of radishes. We had dill and lettuces and things like that. And in the fall I also healed in some asparagus, so I dug up a ton of crowns and bunched them together, covered them in here. There's blue false indigo bush. I can use this loose soil as a place to heal in material for the winter. You can see I've also got some hascaps that I'm going to raise up, and I can use this soil as a stool layer bed, banks really rich compost potting mix around these, and be able to get them to root along the stems. So it's a way to propagate and multiply, and then also to take advantage of the young nutrient in this, giving it a year to rest and integrate before I put it into pots with tender little plants. And then this is the activity du jour. Yesterday I did 10 truckloads of manure. Today I've done 3 so far. This is me connecting with neighbors who have alpacas, some that have horses, and saying, look, can I get your pile of shit? And they say yes almost always, which is remarkable, and I'm not going to question it. But so I take advantage of a 10-degree day, and I'm actually just in a sweater now because the activity of this is enough to keep me warm. So it's a great way to do something really productive for future needs while it's brutally cold out. And I'll do another video of this at some point. I have a thing in here called the load handler. You can see the crank arm, which is a conveyor belt that helps me unload this material. I can't sing their praises enough. I'm definitely not sponsored by them, but if you have a truck and you're moving lots of material, the load handler is an awesome thing. So that helps a whole lot. And what I'm doing is, as this manure and bedding and old feed is coming off the truck, I'm mixing it with, these are from a local quarry. They have, I forget the exact term for it, I think it's called filter sand, which is, the reason I bought it is $20 for a ton, and it's got rocks and dust and pebbles of all sorts of different colors. It's mainly slate and shale, but basically there's a whole lot of mineral, direct mineral in here that I can mix. You can see I do a shovelful at a time here or there and just toss it in. And with the high heat of the compost and the turning action, it'll integrate, and then as I use it for potting mix, it'll provide a little bit of aggregate and porosity so that the soil doesn't compact. It'll allow for better drainage. You can see I've got an old compost pile here that I covered with that, and that I'll be turning that up and into this main compost pile as I build it. The other thing I'm adding in as I go, I've got a ton of videos on this, you can look them up on my channel, is biochar. So this was from 2 sessions last year. This is just straight uninoculated charcoal that's been resting, and so now I'm folding it into the compost as I build the pile. That's really what you want. If you want to make charcoal and use it agriculturally, you can't just make the charcoal and put it in the soil. You need to charge it. And so now I'm mixing it into that hot compost, and it will charge in there. It'll also absorb excess nitrogen, and it'll help reduce any leaching that may happen. So you can see it's getting, I mean, it's all frozen chunks, but I'm pretty confident this will thaw out in a short order and start cooking for the rest of the winter. The other yield that I can potentially extract from this is if the compost pile is made well and it's going to get nice and hot and I can temp probe it and it's, holding at 90 or 100 Fahrenheit, I can smooth off the top of this and then potentially put hoops over it to use as a steaming seed starting space. I can put pots filled with rooting mix and hardwood cuttings in March or early April to provide them bottom heat so that they can root before the buds push. And there's just opportunity to capture and extract heat from this in a more useful way. So, here we are in the middle of winter, 10 degrees out, ground is frozen solid, and there's opportunity to be moving this nursery forward in some really serious ways in a time of year where I'm normally, there's normally not that much agriculturally to do. And this is a lot better than doing this material in the packed heat of summer. Let me just zoom out. You can see there's tons of garden beds all around here, cultivar currants and elderberries. There's more haskcaps and different apple trees and all sorts of production happening real close, which bodes well because I can move that material very easily. And you get the overall idea. The resource depot, sited as thoughtfully as possible and trying to use as many permaculture concepts and principles to make this as useful and multi-yieldy as possible. That's right, I said multi-yieldy. Thanks for watching.